More changes across the association. The Magic and head coach Steve Clifford have mutually agreed to part ways effective immediately on the tail end of a trade deadline fire sale. This move further indicates Orlando's shift towards a full rebuild. In 3 seasons at the helm for the Magic, Clifford amassed a 96-131 record, including a pair of short-lived playoff appearances. Joining us now with his reaction to the news, the coach, Avery Johnson, with us here on CBS Sports HQ. Coach, you've long told me that there's no such thing as a mutual parting of ways, so I'll ask you, your initial reaction to this news is what?
No, there's no mutual parting of ways ever in basketball or professional sports. You know, you either get hired or you get fired, and that's just, I've gone through it several times, and this was a change that's a little bit surprising. You know, you make the playoffs 2 out of 3 years, and even though, you know, Coach Clifford's record was under 500, you thought he was going to be there a little bit, you know, maybe had a little bit more time left on his coaching tenure with Orlando. But I guess you saw some signs of this with that fire sale around trade deadline when you basically trade your 3 best players to Chicago, Boston, and Denver. And you left basically in a rebuilding mode. And I'm sure that they thought they wanted to go in a different direction with a fresh voice and a new voice through this rebuilding process.
Yeah, they really took things down to the studs there, Coach, getting rid of the studs at the trade deadline. And that's really my next question for you here is you remove your 3 top scorers in Gordon, Fournier, and Vooch, and then you ask a coach to do what from that point on, because he's left with nothing to do offensively in a league that's predicated by offensive play. So what was Steve Clifford supposed to do after the trade deadline to keep his job? Because we're talking about a movement forward here and maybe a rebuilding process, but Steve Clifford likely could be the coach for that process. Do you take any issue with the timeline here?
Well, it's all a part of professional sports, and unless you're behind the scenes and having those conversations with ownership and management, you really just don't know the full story. But what I would say is, Coach Clifford, overall, independent of the record, when he had those 3 guys there and they were in playoff contention and had a chance to compete, to potentially build something and advance past the first round. But when you have that fire sale of your 3 top scorers and, you know, one guy that's a fantastic rebounder in Vucevic and another guy in Gordon that's an outstanding defensive player who was going to emerging as an offensive player and his game was developing. And you can see how he's helped the Denver Nuggets in their playoff run, especially in the first round, beating Portland. You could see that when those guys were there, there was a clear path going forward. I don't know what the clear path now is, except for rebuild, especially behind Anthony, their young rookie starting point guard.
Yeah, they're really having to put forth a new plan here that's going to take years and years to get where they want to get in that ultimate playoff goal, and even heights higher than that if they are trying to maybe rebuild this thing in somebody's image. So that's my question for you, coaches. Who fits the billing right now to be the head coach of a team in that situation with limited offensive firepower and a long way to go to get back to where you want to be?
Well, you've heard a lot of different names. I've often talked about guys like Mark Jackson, who, did the rebuilding job and helped basically take the Golden State Warriors from out of on life support and basically got healthy again. You've heard names like Sam Cassell. Any of those guys are ultimately talented coaches. And, one has been a head coach, another guy's been an assistant coach, Sam Cassell, under Doc Rivers for years and had a good run when he was with the Clippers. And now they're a #1 seed with the Philadelphia 76ers. So those are some of the usual suspects in terms of the names that you'll hear. You have to wait and see. Hopefully the Atlanta Hawks is going to do the smart thing and sign Nate McMillan to a long-term extension after this run. And if they don't, he would be a name that could potentially be in play there.
It will be very interesting, as it is every offseason, to see how things play out across the coaching carousel. But we're happy to have our coach here with us on CBS Sports HQ. Thank you. All right, the Magic issuing a statement on the tail end of this news. Jeff Weltman, president of basketball operations for the Magic, saying in part, "We'd like to thank Steve for his contributions to the Orlando Magic. We appreciate the many sacrifices he has made as our head coach and understand the timeline of our new path does not align with his goals as a head coach in our league."
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.